The forest was quiet, too quiet. The kind of quiet that makes your breath sound loud and your heartbeat feel like thunder in your chest. He stood completely still in the shadows of tall pines, holding an axe loosely by his side. The morning sun hadn't yet reached the ground, and a heavy mist hugged the earth like a ghost. A soft crunch, barely a sound, came from the underbrush behind him. He turned his head slowly. Nothing, only trees, still, silent. His name was Ravi, and he lived here, deep in the woods, miles away from the nearest town, from people, from noise. By choice, by heart, but for a few seconds, something didn't feel right. He waited, listened. No more sounds. Maybe it was a deer. Maybe the wind. Or maybe just his thoughts playing tricks again. With a small sigh, he turned back to the log he had been chopping for firewood. The fog was lifting now, and golden light spilled through the leaves. As his axe split the log clean in two, a soft smile tugged at the corner of his lips. He was alone, and he was happy. Not the kind of happy you post on social media. Not the kind that needs approval, likes, or applause. This was peace, stillness, the kind of contentment that only grows when you stop pretending to be someone you're not. Ravi had once lived in the city. A small apartment full of noise, neighbors, deadlines, and expectations. Every day, pretending to be someone outgoing, social, busy, normal, but inside, he was drowning. It had taken him years to admit the truth. He liked being alone. He loved silence. He didn't need parties or people to feel complete. He just needed this, his forest, his home, his slow, quiet life. He had built his wooden cabin with his own hands, stone by stone, nail by nail. He grew his own vegetables, chopped his own wood, fetched water from the stream, and watched the stars at night. No one told him what to do. No one judged him for being quiet. And slowly, he began to heal. To feel like himself. To feel whole. Ravi wiped the sweat from his forehead with the back of his hand. The morning sun had fully risen now, painting the trees gold and casting long, soft shadows across the forest floor. He looked around at his little clearing in the woods. There was the wooden cabin, with its slanted roof and crooked windows, which he had built with nothing but determination and old tools. Smoke gently curled from the chimney, the smell of burnt oak lingering in the air. A small garden stretched beside the house, neat rows of tomatoes, spinach, carrots, and herbs. Nearby, chickens scratched at the dirt, clucking softly, their feathers glowing in the morning light. It wasn't perfect, but it was his, and it was enough. He walked to the garden, knelt down, and ran his fingers through the cool soil. A butterfly danced near his shoulder. A soft wind whispered through the trees. He smiled to himself. No alarms, no traffic, no deadlines, just the rhythm of nature and the peace of his own breath. As he picked some ripe tomatoes and placed them in the basket, a memory floated into his mind, uninvited but familiar. The old apartment, cold gray walls, a blinking router light, the hum of a broken fridge, and loneliness, not the peaceful kind he now loved, but the other kind. The one that came even when you were surrounded by people. The kind that echoed in small talk and fake smiles. He had lived like that for years, putting on a face that wasn't his. Pretending to enjoy parties, laughing when he didn't feel like it, taking part in things just because that's what people did. But every night, when he closed the door behind him, a strange emptiness would wrap around him like a wet blanket. He would sit on the floor in the dark, listening to the cars below and asking himself, why does it feel like I don't belong anywhere? He had friends. He had a job. He even dated someone once. But he felt invisible, like no one really saw him, not the real him. That's when he started dreaming of the forest. It began as a quiet thought. A whisper. What if I just left everything? He didn't tell anyone. He knew what they'd say. You're running away. That's not how life works. You'll be lonely. But no one understood. He already was lonely. And the forest didn't feel like running away. It felt like going home. Now, as he stirred a pot of vegetable stew over the fire in his cozy cabin, he hummed softly to himself. The wooden walls were filled with the scent of herbs and warmth. His bookshelf was lined with worn books. A kettle hissed quietly in the background. Ravi sat by the window, sipping tea, wrapped in a woolen shawl. Outside, a squirrel darted across the clearing. Birds chirped their morning songs. A distant stream sang its own soft lullaby. He placed his hand gently on his chest. His heart was calm. He didn't miss the noise, the pressure, or the pretending. Here, he could just be. Quiet, gentle, real, and finally, after all these years, he didn't feel the need to explain himself to anyone. He was happier alone. That night, the forest changed. The soft winds turned cold. The sky darkened too early. Even the animals were quiet, as if the trees themselves held their breath. Ravi felt it in his bones. He stood on the porch, looking at the sky. Thick clouds were crawling across the stars, swallowing the moonlight. A chill wrapped around his shoulders, and the trees began to sway and groan. He whispered to himself, "Storm's coming." He went inside quickly, locking the door behind him. The wind howled outside like a wild animal. Trees cracked in the distance. Leaves flew past the window, and the roof creaked under the pressure of the coming rain. Ravi moved fast but calmly. He placed heavy stones at the base of the door, checked the windows, pulled down the lantern. He lit candles and placed them around the room, just in case the fire went out. Then he filled a few bottles of water from the barrel and checked his food. And then he waited. The rain came like a roar. It beat down on the roof, loud and angry, like drums in the dark. Thunder cracked the sky open. Lightning flashed white across the window. Inside, Ravi sat still by the fire, holding a warm cup in his hands. His heart beat a little faster, but not from fear. From memory, because storms used to scare him. Not the weather, but the kind that came inside his mind. The panic attacks, the loneliness, the times he couldn't explain why he was crying in the middle of the night, curled up on a couch in the city, wishing he could disappear. No one had ever truly noticed those storms in him. But now, here in the woods, he didn't run from them anymore. He listened, he breathed through them. He reminded himself, "I've survived worse. I'm not broken. I'm not weak. I'm just me." And slowly, the storm outside began to sound less like a threat, and more like a song. Wild, honest, free, like him. The power of the wind shook the cabin once. A tree branch hit the roof with a loud crash. Ravi stood, heart pounding, and checked the ceiling. No leaks, no damage, just noise. By morning, the world was silent again. The storm had passed. Outside, the forest was drenched and still. The garden was muddy. A few branches had fallen, and one corner of the chicken coop had collapsed. But the house stood strong. So did Ravi. He spent the day repairing the coop, cleaning the yard, and drying wet clothes by the fire. He didn't complain. He didn't curse the weather. Because this life, his life, was not always easy. But it was honest. It made him feel real. And no amount of rain could take that away. That evening, as he watched the sun set through his repaired window, Ravi whispered into the golden light, "I'm proud of you." He wasn't talking to anyone else. Just himself. Because sometimes, that's enough. It was a week after the storm. The sun had returned. Birds had begun nesting again. The rhythm of the forest had settled, and so had Ravi. Days passed in their gentle silence, chopping wood, feeding the chickens, reading in the warm glow of candlelight. Then, one afternoon, Ravi heard something that didn't belong. Footsteps, crunching along the gravel path. His body tensed. No one came here, not by accident, not on a stroll, not even by mistake. Ravi stepped off his porch and stood at the edge of the clearing. His heart beat slow but steady. A tall man appeared from the trees, wearing a brown coat and carrying a small mailbag. "Delivery," the stranger said, a little out of breath. Ravi raised an eyebrow. "Delivery?" The man nodded and pulled out a small, crumpled envelope. "No address. Just a name. Yours. It got passed around a while before it reached me. Figured I'd try my luck." He handed the envelope to Ravi, who hesitated. His name, Ravi Anand, was written in soft, slanted handwriting he hadn't seen in years. A chill spread through his chest. He looked up, but the mailman was already tipping his hat and walking away. The forest swallowed him again. Ravi stood there, the letter trembling slightly in his fingers. He knew who it was from before he even opened it. Inside the cabin, the fire crackled gently as Ravi sat on the floor, legs crossed, eyes on the paper. It was from Maya, his younger sister. Dear Baya, I know it's been years. I hope this letter finds you. I don't even know if it will. But I needed to write. I miss you. I miss the way you made me laugh when I was sad. I miss the way you listened without interrupting. I miss the quiet way you used to walk into a room and somehow make it calmer, safer. It's been hard without you. We all said you ran away, but deep down, I think we always knew you didn't run. You just wanted peace, and we didn't understand that then. Maybe we still don't, but I'm trying. I'm writing to say, I'm sorry. For not seeing you, for not listening, for not asking how you really felt when you were surrounded by all of us. I want you to know that I love you. Whether you come back or not, I just hope you're happy. With love, Maya. Tears slipped quietly down Ravi's cheeks. He didn't sob, he didn't speak, he simply sat there, holding the letter to his chest, breathing through the ache and the warmth that came all at once. He looked around at the home he had built, the shelves, the fire, the garden outside the window, and whispered, barely aloud, I am. He folded the letter and placed it inside a small wooden box near his bed, the same one that held his favorite childhood book and the photo of him and Maya, taken when she was just a little girl holding his hand. That night, under the stars, Ravi lit a small candle on the porch. Not as a signal, not as a message, just as a silent thank you. To the past that shaped him. To the family that once misunderstood but still loved him. And to himself, for never giving up on the quiet life his soul had always needed. Spring came soft that year. The forest floor burst into color. Wildflowers stretched toward the sun, bees hummed lazily through the air, and even the wind felt warmer, gentler, like it was finally at peace too. Ravi had fallen into a quiet rhythm again. The letter from Maya stayed tucked safely in the wooden box, but it lived in his heart every day. He thought of her often, her laugh, her questions, her kindness hidden under years of silence. He didn't write back, not because he didn't want to, but because he didn't know what to say. Words sometimes felt too small for what lived inside him. He just hoped she knew. It was a Sunday morning when it happened. Ravi was sitting on the porch, sipping tea, watching a squirrel steal a piece of bread from the window ledge, when he heard it. Footsteps. Soft, careful, not like the mailman. He stood slowly, heart calm but curious, and looked toward the trees. And there she was, Maya, older than he remembered, her hair a little shorter, her face wiser. But her eyes, those same soft brown eyes, met his like they were still children playing under the mango tree. She didn't say anything at first. She just stood at the edge of the clearing, holding nothing but a small backpack and a shy smile. I wasn't sure if you'd be here, she said, voice shaky. I wasn't sure you'd come, he replied. A long pause. Then, without words, Ravi walked toward her. Slowly, carefully, and when they stood just a few steps apart, he opened his arms. Maya stepped into them like she had always belonged there. She cried. He didn't, but he held her like he never wanted her to carry guilt again. They sat on the porch for hours that day. She told him about life back home. About how their parents had grown older, softer. About how she'd started reading the books he used to love. About the noise, the pressure, the way she'd sometimes stare at her apartment wall and wonder if maybe he had been right all along. He listened, not to reply, but to truly hear her. Then she asked, Are you really happy here, Baya? He didn't answer right away. He looked around, at the trees, the birds, the garden. The home he built with his own hands. The peace that filled the air like a steady breath. Then he looked at her. I'm not happy because I'm alone, he said gently. I'm happy because I finally learned to live as who I really am. Alone. Just happens to be where I found that truth. Maya wiped her eyes. I think I understand now. He smiled. You don't have to. Just know it's enough. She stayed for 2 nights. They cooked together, laughed over old memories, walked through the forest trails in silence. She didn't try to change him. He didn't try to keep her. And when it was time for her to go, she left a little notebook on his table. Inside was a note. You are not alone, Baya. Even if you choose to live alone, you're still deeply loved. I'll visit again, not to disturb your peace, but to share it, when you're ready. He kept that notebook beside her letter. Years passed. Ravi grew older, but not lonelier. Maya visited every few months. Sometimes for a weekend, sometimes just for tea. Sometimes she brought her own book and sat quietly by the fire with him, saying nothing at all. And those were the visits he loved most. He still chopped his wood, still grew his vegetables, still watched the stars at night. But something had changed, not the peace, not the solitude, but the quiet, comforting truth that he was no longer misunderstood. One morning, as the sun rose gently over the treetops, Ravi sat in his garden with a warm cup in his hands. The forest was alive with sound. He closed his eyes, smiled, and breathed in deep. He was alone, he was loved, and he was free, happier alone, but never lonely again. Thank you for watching the video all the way through. If you like the video, leave a like and subscribe to the channel for more content like this.